Hello, welcome. You're listening to Season 1 of Narcolepsy Navigators, brought to you by Naps for Life Narcolepsy. Narcolepsy Navigators is a podcast for raising awareness of this fascinating illness through a deep dive into the lives and individuals living with narcolepsy and idiopathic hypersomnia. I am Kerly Boga, the founder of Naps for Life Narcolepsy, and welcome to our stories. Hi everyone, and welcome to Narcolepsy Navigators. My name is Kerly Boga. I'm your host.
And I'm Liz, your co-host for today, and we both have narcolepsy type 1.
Today we're joined by Christine. She is from Ireland, and the topic for today is mental health. Welcome.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
How was your week?
It's been good. I've just been back to work after the Easter break, so it's a short week, so that's always a plus.
Definitely. Carolee, how has your week been?
Not been good week. Narcolepsy's been very bad. I've been spending most of the days in bed, very, very exhausted, and probably being able to only do 1 hour of anything worth accomplishing every day. So yeah, it's been rough.
Oh no. Is that because of lack of sleep or anything triggered it in particular?
Well, lots of vivid dreams, abductions and torture and lovely stuff,
Oh, the worst.
I don't know, a friend of mine was saying that maybe I overpushed myself doing the coloring book and then college, and then I started the wig course. It was just like a lot, and trying to keep up with my part-time job, like a lot, just all at once. And then we had the Easter break and my body was just like, that's it, watch. And then it just collapsed, and then it just needed to like sleep for a week to I think maybe that's what happened.
It's like the adrenaline or something, like once you stop.
Yeah.
I find that I get sick or just literally cannot stop sleeping. So I totally relate to that as well.
And what about you, Liz? How was your week?
Yeah, it's been okay. I've also had a funny couple of weeks. So I started a new job a while ago, like I mentioned, and I increased my medication to keep up with the demands of the job. But a side effect of the medication for me is anxiety. So I had an almost like panic type thing on the train the other day, which I've never experienced before. And I've been so weird about getting on trains since then, which is so annoying.
Oh, no.
But yeah, it's been okay. I'm breathing my way through the train journeys, which are absolutely fine in reality. But yeah, also had a few days off last week and just napped constantly, which was lovely, but also not the best use of my time, but there you go. Good to have a break. So yeah, it sounds like both of us are having a bit of burnout and recovery at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. It's like when you get a break and a day off as well, you want to do something fun, not sleep. It's just like I find like sometimes I'm like, oh, I've got a day off, but all I've done is sleep and not like done something super fun that I actually wanted to do. So yeah, burnout is definitely difficult because I feel like we encounter it quite often because of the exhaustion. And you were saying, Carolee, of like doing too many different things, but it's just like our energy levels are just so like, I don't know, like we just have to, I think it's like you're caught in a rock in a hard place where you're like, oh, like I really want to do as much as I can while I'm awake. But then if you do like even the tiniest thing that just pushes you over the energy, it's just like, oh no, now we're in for it. Oh, it's the worst. It really is.
It's hard, but we've all made it today. So that's a positive. We're all here.
That's true.
But let's dive in.
So, Christine, do you have narcolepsy type 1 or 2?
So I have type 1, which is narcolepsy with cataplexy.
Okay.
So I originally was diagnosed with type 2, but then they realized that the cataplexy was actually in my jaw, not my legs. So that's why they didn't pick it up.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, so I was like, said to the consultant, like when I laugh, I can like really struggle to get my head up, and I feel like this weird weakness. And like while some things are really funny, sometimes I'm like, I don't really understand why I can't pick my head up. And he's like, that's your cataplexy. So he was like, it was never picked up on my legs because they put that little sensor on your legs during your sleep study. But that's not where it was. So yeah,
that's so interesting because
that's why they put it on our legs. I always wondered about that.
I don't remember having any electrodes or whatever they were on my legs at all. But also My cat,
definitely had.
yeah.
I sometimes take them off like after the nighttime, so you might not have had them on the full time, so you might not have noticed, or you might not have had them on. There's so many different variations of sleep studies, I feel, as well.
Yeah, definitely. Because my cataplexy is definitely in my face more than any other part of my body.
Oh.
It's really attractive when I can barely keep my eyes open when I'm trying to tell a joke.
And it's frustrating too, because you're like, it's really funny, I just can't get the words out.
Yeah. Like if only they knew what was going on right now, they would love it too. But there you go.
So yes, I have in conclusion, I have type 1 narcolepsy with cataplexy.
And what year were you diagnosed?
So I was diagnosed in December 2017. I was actually initially diagnosed with sleep apnea in 2014 in the initial sleep study, but after like the CPAP and all didn't work, I went back and he was like, I think the sleep study could be done again. So they sent me to Glasgow, and then they eventually got the correct diagnosis then. So probably was experiencing symptoms since I was about 16 or 17. So the symptoms had been there for nearly 10 years by the time I had been finally diagnosed correctly.
Wow.
So they sent you from Ireland to Glasgow to have the test?
Yes, because in Northern Ireland, there's a very small sleep department, and there's only like 2 consultants at the minute. So they didn't have the capacity to do the sleep study here, because I think maybe only once a month they did them. And because there was such a backlog, and he knew like mines had maybe been on the go for a long time, he was like, we're just going to outsource this. And he wrote a letter to a colleague in Glasgow, and they flew me over and got it done. So,
wow.
yeah, I think it was just a resource thing.
That's really good.
How did you feel when you got your diagnosis?
I'm not crazy. Basically, like you go through a really like strange set of emotions where you're like relieved. You're like, I knew there was something wrong with me. Now there's an answer. But then that kind of turns on its head, and you're like, oh no, there's something wrong with me. There actually is something wrong with me. And, it's incurable. And then you kind of go through all the whole stages of grief. I feel like you start looking back into your past, and you're mad, and you're like, that's what was wrong with me. Like, and then you're sad. There's just so many different emotions. I feel like you go through at different stages. Like initially it's like, oh, and then it's like, you just over time go through all the like stages, I guess. Did you feel the same, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I was so relieved when I got the diagnosis, like you said, because it kind of validates everything you've been experiencing. And then as soon as the relief was gone, it was just like sadness of like, oh, great. And I remember being given a leaflet, which I just read in the car on the way home, and was like, oh, okay, this is my life now. Yeah. And I kind of think as well, and I've mentioned before on this podcast, I'm not sure that I've ever really left that grief cycle. I think I just go in and out of different stages all the time.
Yeah, I would definitely say that, especially when you are having a particularly difficult time with symptoms. Like recently, I've just been feeling just really like, just like, and like kind of annoyed again. Like, oh, I'm doing all these things, and I still, at the end of the day, you still can't cure it, that kind of way. So, yeah. But it took a while to be diagnosed, but I suppose I'll wait for your questions, because I don't want to say like the story and you're like, I'm going to ask that.
We like the free flow. It's good.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was really relieved when I got diagnosed, because it was so bad at the time, and so I knew something was wrong. It was just finally we've got an answer. And I didn't really go into a stage of grief, I don't think, because I was just like so happy that I had something to say back to people, like when they would say, oh, why are you doing this? Like, oh, I have narcolepsy. So like that was really and then whenever I'd go to the hospital, there would be like a group of people, like I can't remember how long this was for, maybe for a year, but every time we'd go, there'd like be lots of students. They'd all like be in a circle, like taking notes of everything I said. Celebrity or something. It was really like,
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so I didn't quite mind that. It was just like quite fascinating to me, like why were they so like amazed about everything that was coming out of my mouth? And it's just, you just go like every 3 months and talk to the doctor about
what happened 2 months before, and then go again and talk to him about it. It's really weird, but every time they'd just be like taking notes, and they were just like so fascinated.
It's funny because there's loads of things that happen to us in the daily that we just get on with. But then if you tell someone else, they're like, that isn't normal. I remember coming into work and telling people like, oh, I thought someone broke into my house last night. And then the night before, I thought someone was trying to kidnap me. And they're just like, I'm like, but I'm sure everyone has them dreams. And they're like, no. Extreme.
Awkward silence.
Like, you know, before you're diagnosed, you're like, people must have thought I was like absolutely crazy.
Yeah. I legit used to think that I could see dead people because I would see so many people walking into my room at night. I was like, I can see ghosts. That's what it is.
It's so strange. Like when I was younger as well, like I would have been saying to my mum, like, I think our house is haunted. Like I really think that. And she'd be like, no, this was a field before the house was built here. No one was here before us. I remember turning on the lights and stuff and me being like convinced. But obviously that must have been the start of like the hypnagogic hallucinations. But I just thought I was some sort of haunted child. Just like, what's wrong? Like, this is so strange. And all I watch is Disney. It doesn't make sense.
Oh, so true. Our brains screw us over.
Like, I don't even I seen Ghostbusters recently, and I was like, I can't even look at that image because if I look at that, I'm gonna log that for a nightmare.
You know what? I've been watching Game of Thrones, which is so gory, and I've actually not had any nightmares. So I don't know, like, it's so strange because sometimes, like you say, I'll literally see a picture of something and that will go in my head. But hours of Game of Thrones, nothing.
Wow.
Funny you say that. Yeah. Gore doesn't seem to feature, but it's all like about people trying to like get on top of me or like strangle me. But no one's ever tried to knife me. Maybe it's because it's sword. Maybe it's because it's swords or something. I'm like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, they're not scary. Poltergeists, on the other hand, terrifying.
Oh, don't worry, you have time left. You're both really young. Yeah, wait until you've been stabbed a few times, buried alive.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Covered in snakes. Yeah.
No, I've had the snakes. I've had the bugs. I've had like earthquakes, fire. Like there's so many. It's all like natural. Not all of them, but there's a lot of natural disasters involved in mine as well.
Yeah,
like,
the knifing was not bad. It's bad. I think the knifing's worse than being stabbed is worse than being shot. Definitely.
I love how we're talking about this all. Yeah.
We know. We've been through it a few times.
As if we're like in some sort of criminal gang. It's like, oh no, we just have a really crazy brain.
Very vivid imagination.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you share with us your journey to being diagnosed with narcolepsy, and how has this condition impacted your daily life and mental health?
Okay, so I probably would say that I first felt abnormally tired when I was about 16 or 17. I was at school and I just would have came home from school and slept until dinner. My mum would be like waking me up, like, do your homework, go to bed. The next morning, it was just impossible to get me awake. She just would have been, and the thing is, my mum would have been quite like, would have made my breakfast and things like that. Like, I don't know where I would be if I didn't have her in that aspect of my life, because she would have come in, been like, okay, Christine, time to get up. She would have had to have woken me an hour and a half before my brother. My brother would literally wake up 20 minutes, rock out, get onto the bus. He would be so fast and getting ready. I would fall asleep while putting my uniform on. She would come back in and be like, are you ready for breakfast? I'd be asleep again. And she'd be like, literally like poking me like, right, you have to go. And then I'd be eating my breakfast and I would fall asleep while eating my breakfast. It was just a constant like, and she'd be like, Christine, what are you like? Like, why? I don't understand what's taking you so long. And I'd be like, I couldn't understand. And she actually took me to the doctor to get like bloods and things done. And back then, I just feel like if the doctor was like, no, your bloods are normal, you're just young, you're a girl who's growing up, all teenagers get tired. And my mum would be like, okay, but like, she didn't know what else to do. And especially when like a medical professional was like, there's nothing wrong with her. She was like, right, well, there's nothing, I don't know what this is. And then basically in school, I got through school. I don't know how. I think it was because I had that routine and I had her to kind of help me through just the basics of life. And then when I got to university, that's when things got real rocky because I had no routine anymore. I only had 12 hours of class, which sounds good, but like it was a law degree, but so it was all this reading, like constant reading. And I would say that's when my mental health really, I declined because I had never before thought maybe I won't pass this, like maybe I won't actually scrape through, because school, I always had a kind of like self-worth issue that I always thought that like even if I got really good grades, I still didn't think that I was smart, but it was because I was overcompensating all the time. Like I was doing double the work. I might have got the A, but I was so stressed. I just felt like it was just gonna slip out of my fingers. Like I just felt like I was, my mum would be like, you're so stressed, like, and then you get the A's. I don't understand. But it was because I had to put so much effort, like all of my being, into being like having everything done, all the dots, lined up. And then in university, that compensation was just really scary because the format was different. I only had 12 hours of class. So the structure, I think once I left that home life routine, my sleep was going to start getting worse, but the narcolepsy symptoms were becoming harder and harder to mask. And then in lectures, I'd be nipping myself. I would be writing notes and then just like wake up. And it was an automatic behavior. I was writing gibberish. And then it's like, what's the point going to these lectures? So then in final year, I got quite stressed and I thought, right, this was the third time I was going to go back to the doctor. I was like, right, I'm taking my lecture notes with me because I don't think he's going to believe, like, I don't know how else to explain how exhausted I am. And I said to him, look, this is not an iron issue. I don't know what else, like I've been tested for all this. And I said, like, the only way I can explain to you is to look at my lecture notes. I was like, I am falling asleep. It's not my eyesight. Like all these tests. And he just looked at it and like, I don't know if he thought I was having a stroke or something. He sent me to neurology, but that was the start of the referral process. But that was, what I think back, I'm really glad that I was like a stubborn person because and kind of like sassy at that time. I'm not as bad now, but like I just think I might never have been diagnosed if I hadn't have pushed them to really look at it. So yeah, I got through uni, but the diagnosis timing was just awful because I basically was going through professional exams. So it's like school, I overcompensated, uni, I scraped through. But then when you work like a 9-to-5 job and then you're doing chartered accountant exams on that same schedule and going to class Friday, Saturday, it really crumbled then because I physically didn't have the time to make up any more work than I could possibly do. So at that time they had incorrectly diagnosed me with sleep apnea, and because they gave me a CPAP, which is not what I needed, I did, and within the time frame couldn't get the diagnosis before my exams, which meant that I didn't have any medication while doing these professional exams. And if you don't have the proper diagnosis and medication, it's difficult because whilst you can have accommodations when you have your diagnosis, you can't have accommodations if you don't. So that's why I always tell people, like, people will be like, well, if you know that's what's wrong with you, do you really need the diagnosis? And it's like, yes, you do. Because if you don't have it on paper, they don't really accommodate for it. So I had 15 minutes extra time, and these exams were 4 days, consecutive days of 4 hours each. So
Wow.
it was impossible because no matter how I studied, the energy was always going to get me. So like in the first few days, I had high marks, but see the third and fourth, you could just see how they dipped while I burned out. So it was frustrating because now I think in university, if you have narcolepsy, you have the right to have like a bed. You have the right to stop the clock if you need to sleep, like all these things that would have made such a difference. And then like obviously when you think about grief and the stages of grief we were talking about earlier, like that time, it was so difficult because I was just like, you know, if things had been different, if I had been diagnosed earlier, like I could have already have adjusted to this. But then that's why you raise awareness so that it doesn't happen to someone else. So yeah, that's a kind of long-winded approach of the diagnosis story.
It's so important to get that message out there of what narcolepsy actually looks like, because health professionals, I think we've said so many times on this podcast, like heard very similar stories over and over again. Health professionals just don't recognize narcolepsy very easily. So people do end up being diagnosed with really random things like low iron, low vitamin D, you're just a teenager, you're vegetarian, sleep apnea, like, and that doesn't help anyone. So yeah, so important to just raise the message of what it actually is.
No, totally. Yeah.
And it was very clever of you to bring your book in. I think that's a really good one. I think that, and if people video themselves, I think that's a good way to go forward. If like bring evidence to the doctor, because I think that will help. Because I think sometimes we just don't have the correct language to use to explain it. Because using the word tired is never the good language to explain what we're going through. And so I think bringing that paper really, like, without you having to say anything, it's something physical that you can look at and see that obviously something must be wrong with this person, because why is their handwriting this way? This is...
Yeah, I think in my part, I was just so desperate for him to understand, like that, you know, there was always seemed to be an excuse for the tiredness. Like first time it was, I was a teenager, then I was at university. Oh, university students party too much. They're, you know, obviously they're too tired. And I'm like, no, I'm just trying to go to my lectures. Like, I don't understand. So yeah, some sort of evidence. And I think journaling is good because you can, if you're writing the daily struggles and the daily symptoms, if you have a consultant appointment, then you can be like, right, I usually like to write down a few things because you don't see them. For me, anyway, I don't see my consultant that often. So if I have questions, he's like, oh, here we go. I'm like, well, issue number one.
No, that's really good. I tell people they should do that, even for the GP. I do it all the time. I know they don't like it because GP's not supposed to see you for that long. But if you don't want me to come back regularly, this is the way. I write the list, I put it down, and you look at it, and let's just get through it real quick.
Oh yeah,
You don't have to see me again, you know, for a long time. If we just like nip these things in the bud.
No, it's so true. And like even if for our cognitive ability as well, like I can forget. So before I'm going in, I'm like, okay, I'm going to say this, and this, and then he'll ask me something that's really left field, and I'll be like, oh, I didn't really think about that, and then I'll forget. So then that's why I'm like, here's my list. I'll set that down.
You know what? I think there's something about being a person with narcolepsy and having to become organized. And so many people I know who have narcolepsy write themselves so many lists, like have these little strategies to stay organized throughout the day more than the average person.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like I think it's because like, I remember going to therapy and she was like, you know, sometimes it's not great to make too many lists because then you're kind of telling your brain that you can't rely on it. But I'm like, but I can't. Like I need, you know, I actually need told, pack your toothbrush. So I just have to. It's just the easiest way for me.
I would tell everyone who has narcolepsy or a sleeping disorder to get a whiteboard, put it up in your house, or a chalkboard or something, have it in your kitchen. It's so helpful. And then when you're running late to go out, you just take a picture of the chalkboard and you have it on your phone. So then you have double. Because it's just like you're saying, Christine, you can forget so quickly. It just takes one person asking you something that's not what your mind was thinking about, and then you've completely forgotten the whole thing. You've ever been to the supermarket, went for one thing, left, and then got back home and realized you didn't even get the thing that you were supposed to have gotten. And more important things in the supermarket, this happens. So if you don't have your list going,
yeah, even things like medication, I have to take that every day. And like I came over to my sister's house, nearly forgot it. like literally number one on the list.
I've done that. I went on a weekend away a few weekends ago and I almost forgot the syringe for Xyrem.
Oh,
It was
no.
the very last second as I was leaving the house. I was like, the syringe. Because if I don't have the syringe, I can't take the medication. And I have forgotten the syringe before and tried measuring out with a spoon, and it does not work.
Yeah.
Oh no, is that what you're on, Xyrem?
Yeah, the nighttime liquid medication.
Ah, okay. Is it, and the other medication you were saying earlier that makes you anxious, is that Xyrem or is that a different one?
So Xyrem did cause anxiety for me, yeah, and that's what
Ah.
I increased recently. But I also take pitolisant, which actually has been quite good. That's a daytime stimulant.
Ah, okay. It's interesting because I just asked because everybody's on a different. Some people can be in a real variety. There's so many different medications for us. Sorry, that's what I was just curious.
What medications do you take, or like how do you manage your symptoms day to day?
So I take Concerta. It's a stimulant for the daytime, and then I take fluoxetine. It's an antidepressant, but it's prescribed for my nightmares because there was a point I just went to my consultant and said, like, I would nearly rather the tiredness than the nightmares. The nightmares are traumatizing me so bad. I really, really like I can cope with the tiredness just about, but the nightmares are just tipping me over. Like my mental state the next day isn't proper. It's affecting my life so badly. So he put me on fluoxetine, which suppresses the REM so that you're not just chilling in REM all night and dreaming up Spielberg type nightmares. So yeah, it has definitely helped a lot. They're still quite vivid, but they're not as dangerous or something. So I
Wow.
could be flying instead of I don't know, being killed.
Which is much better. Yeah, I've been on both of those.
Yeah. I'd much rather be a superhero than like, be a victim. So
Yeah.
Mantra for life.
That really is.
So as well as the kind of struggles that you've had with the nightmares affecting your mental health, how would you say that narcolepsy has also kind of impacted that?
I think managing narcolepsy is a constant kind of cycle that you have to go through. There's no day that you wake up and you don't experience a symptom. Well, that's maybe personal to me, but it's every day. It's Christmas, it's your birthday, it's breaks away with friends. You have to deal with it constantly. And I think sometimes the toll that can take on your mental health is that you're just thinking, please give me a break. Like, I just want to do the tasks that everyone else does and not have, you just feel like sometimes basic things that other people take for granted can be stressful. So I was trying to explain to my friend, like, I was like, easy things for other people can be really stressful for us. So I think that can impact your kind of mental resilience at times because you're just sort of like, I can't really take on any more stress, because the sleep deprivation, I read, like, whenever you're that sleep deprived in the morning, your cortisol is super high. So like when you think of it that way, like, I'm just like, is it any wonder that I find it so overwhelming to go for a food shop? Or if I have to meet a friend in the morning, but maybe someone wanted to do something the evening before, I find like the social aspect of it quite difficult in trying to keep yourself right in terms of drawing boundaries with, I need to nap at this time, no, I can't go to that, or I'm going to have to need a day off, and then kind of keeping that boundary but also not isolating yourself. I just feel like it's something I still haven't nailed down better than I was. But I think anxiety wise as well, it's a thing that you there's just a feeling of lack of control sometimes, and I really don't like that. Like, I really like planned things and trying to plan things where I can, but see that where you just get a random flare of symptoms and you're like, this is really unfair. I don't think that I shouldn't have this. And then you're like, oh, right, well, that's the nature of the condition. And just the frustration of that can just make you mad. And then you're sad because you're just like, I'm just really struggling. And then you're feeling like, because it's chronic, you don't always want to be sharing that with people because you're feeling like, oh, they're thinking, here she goes again.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of feelings. I just, it really impacts your mental health and your self-worth and your ability to do things and execute tasks as you would want to. And another thing I read recently was like, if you can carry out and execute the tasks that you plan to do, it really like boosts your self-worth. And that really made me think, is that why I feel so low whenever, say, I sleep in by accident and then I don't get to meet a friend that I meant to? That, you know, the feeling of not being able to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish from the smallest tasks really affects your like trust in yourself. And at the end of the day, it's not even about the trust in yourself. It's just a physical condition that you can't help, but you take it personally, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. Saying that to my sister the other day, because every day this week she's like, "Hey, have you done the editing? Have you done the editing?" No, I have not done the editing yet. And then she's like, "Yeah, maybe you packed too many things," like my other friend was saying. And then I said to her, "The problem is I'm packing myself with stuff in order to not be depressed." And she goes, "That doesn't make sense." So I was like, "Yeah, but because I feel validation from accomplishing things. If I'm not accomplishing things, that makes me depressed. And if I have time to, if I have appointments or assignment that, or people counting on me to do something, then I like have to do it. I have to think, oh, okay, I need to nap, and then I have to do this thing. I have to nap, and then I have to do this thing. So like I have to constantly be sort of on the go in my mind, thinking, okay, I need to nap because I need to do this thing. You know, this person's counting on me or whatever. It's just like constantly like the pressure is like there. But if I don't do any of those things, then soon the depression takes over, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm 41 years old. I don't have a boyfriend. I don't have a husband. I live alone. I have a cat. I don't have kids. And then my mind starts playing these stories to me, and then I get depressed. So if I make myself very busy, I don't have time for the depression doesn't kick in because there's no time in the space in my brain for it because it's so busy trying to accomplish these little tasks. Doesn't have time to sit and think, oh, poor Kelly.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's, you need, like, because again, we have such a vivid imagination for nightmares, where our minds, I feel like, are great at telling us like really dark tales. You're just like, you just be sitting there and like, you know, like in Barbie when she's like, she's like, does anyone ever think about dying? And they're like, because she's the glitch. Have you seen the Barbie film?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so there's a part in it basically Barbie's not functioning as she should, and they're all dancing as they always do. And then she's like, does anyone ever thinking about dying? And she's like, they're like, what? And it's like that.
That's not allowed in Barbie world.
They're like, everyone's really happy. What are you talking about? But I like the intrusive thoughts sometimes can creep up really easily, and especially exhaustion. It just feels like it just feeds into it. But yeah, mental health is a massive thing with narcolepsy. I just feel like to be able to cope with it, mental health is like, it's crucial. I feel like that you start to address that, because you have your whole life to kind of live inside your head, and you may as well make it a, what does they say, they may as well make it a nice place to be, or as nice as you can. But it's not easy. It's really difficult.
Definitely. It's actually really quite cathartic to hear other people expressing that as well, because I think one of the things that I struggle with the most day to day is the frustration, and like the constant frustration at how difficult it is to deal with narcolepsy. And that just never goes away. And it comes and goes in waves, but it doesn't fully go away. And sometimes I'm just sitting in a room at work and I'm looking around at everyone and I'm like, oh my God, these people can just stay awake all day and just sleep all night. And it's so easy for them. And when something doesn't feel easy for you and you feel like you're on your own with that, like it does just cause huge feelings of frustration all the time, that it's kind of hard to know sometimes what to do with those emotions.
No matter, like, you know, what therapy you go to, what positive affirmations you read, like, as you say, that frustration of people just naturally being able to sleep and stay awake, it doesn't go away. And like, people, when I first started my blog, people were like, oh, that's so nice. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I had to let the anger out in a healthy way, because I just thought, if I get one more stupid question or stupid comment about me telling people I have narcolepsy, I'm going to scream. Like, I'm actually going to lose my mind. So if public awareness is this bad, then we need to start raising awareness, because I just couldn't, just the comments you get, like, it's just people are hilarious.
And what are those comments that you've received? Because I know, like, me and Kerry have talked about this before, but I'm wondering if there's something about being from, I'm hoping I get this right, Northern Ireland, where it might be kind of even smaller communities, potentially more rural, and therefore even more of a lack of awareness.
So I think in Northern Ireland, there's only like 100 people. So Belfast is like Belfast where I live is like a couple of 100,000. So it's a city. But yeah, awareness is next to nothing. Like people, I'd say, people always say to me like, oh, I would love to be able to sleep during the day. And I'm like, why? What? No, it's because I don't sleep at night. That's why I'm sleeping during the day. And they're like, do you know, maybe I have a bit of that. And I'm like, what? No, what do you mean? And they're like, oh, I'm really tired. And then I start questioning them. I'm like, right, so what time do you go to your bed? And they're like, oh, I wouldn't usually wind down to like 1 a.m. And I'm like, no, you're just not sleeping because of stupidity. Like, I literally am doing like my nighttime routine at 9:30 at night, and meditation, and like let's wind down and let's put all the lights off, and I still don't sleep. Like, oh, it just drives me crazy. Like, it literally. And then there's loads of people that they hear sleep and they just think, oh, you know, like you're this one is just making this up. And I'm like, my favorite thing to do is like be like, you know, this the way explain to them how it's diagnosed. So I'm like, they literally scanned my brain. Like, you can't make this up. You know, like, they witnessed how many minutes it took me to go into REM. Like, this is not something that I'm just like, I'm a bit tired. Like, this is scientifically proven. And they're just so many people, a lot of people want to relate to the tiredness, but someone said to me a while back, don't say tired, say excessive daytime sleepiness, because when people hear tired, they think it's their type of tired, which is not the same. Like, they're not going to fall asleep at inappropriate times. Like, they'll maybe feel a bit tired, but they'll go to their bed and they feel refreshed, whereas we don't get that. And, you know, there's a lot of ignorance out there. So yeah, I tried to like channel that annoyance and to raise an awareness. But yeah, I think people try to relate, but it's annoying sometimes. Depends what way.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a competition, that's when it really annoys me. Like, oh, you think you're tired now? Like, wait until you have like children and whatever. And I'm like, I don't have children, but I'm awake every couple hours. I can also cry. But like, you know, it's just like, you know, that's just people. I think people are always trying to compare, and it's like, the more tired you are and the more busy you are, like, it's like a status kind of thing. Like, oh, I'm so important. And I'm like, good for you.
What would you like to see change in terms of support resources for people with narcolepsy? And how can friends and family and even like the healthcare system better assist individuals dealing with the condition?
What I would say to people that maybe have there may be parents of someone that has narcolepsy, or it's their brother, sister, friend. I think there's a lot of frustration even from their part, seeing like a loved one go through something that they can't directly help them. You know, they can't take it away, they can't cure narcolepsy. But what I would say to them is like, I don't expect you to be able to like get the cure for narcolepsy. It's the day-to-day living. So like the things like doing your food shop, preparing meals, cleaning your house, all like tasks that require a lot of energy and that we don't like maybe have the actual physical ability to complete in one sitting. For example, cleaning my house, I have to split in 3. So one evening I'll have to like gather all the items like off the floor, like tidy, like if there's anything on the floor or anything to tidy, I tidy it all away. Then the next morning I might clean the bathroom. You know, like I have to split all that up because my energy, if I did all that in one sitting, it's too much. I just can't do it. So like things like that, like, you know, the spoon theory. If family or friends haven't heard of that, I would tell them basically that our energy is like having a limited amount of spoons, and some tasks require more spoons than others. So that like basically, say you've a really busy week where, for example, you've exams or you have friends over, or you know that if you come back from a holiday even, or a different location for work, that you're going to be exhausted, try and draft in the trips. Like, try and be like, please help me with my food shop. Please, like, help me. I think the most difficult thing for me, even like now, is asking for help. Like, and it's because we're trying not to be a bother, but at the same time, like, there's no point us smiling as our ship is sinking. Like, there's just, it's just not,
That's so true.
it's not benefiting you. It's just not. And you know what? Most people don't mind helping you. They just don't know. And if they don't know, they can't help. So I would say it's not even, to do with narcolepsy itself. It's coping with it. And something as simple as making your food and helping you tidy your room can be the best thing in the world when you're too exhausted. And when you're especially, in your environment, like us, like I don't know about you, but I spend a lot of time at home. So if I'm in my room and it's messy, it's just really annoying. So
And that can affect your mental health.
oh yeah, I say if my apartment looks like a raccoon's been through it, then I am not well. It's just like stuff everywhere. I'm like, oh, it's like tidy mind. What is it? Tidy place, tidy mind sort of thing. But
Yeah.
that's what I say to family members anyway. It's not complicated, and don't complicate, trying to figure out all these mad solutions on narcolepsy. Just be there for the daily tasks, because, and just kind of, if someone's having a bad time with narcolepsy, don't be like, oh, did you do too much, or did you do this, and why are you not doing this? And just know that if their narcolepsy symptoms are flaring, the wheels are in motion. They can't. There's no point saying, what did you do yesterday, or what are you going to do tomorrow, because you're in it. Do you know?
Yeah, so true.
Say, like, I'm here for you, and give them a hug. Like, it's honestly not that complicated, but people sometimes see your narcolepsy as a complex puzzle, and you just want a hug. And I know that's maybe not like very revolutionary advice to give, but you just don't have time. You just don't have the energy to dissect it. Sometimes you just can't. And then healthcare system. Okay, sorry, I'll summarize this. I really think you give everyone free therapy, because therapy is expensive.
Yes.
And not everyone has the ability to afford that. Gym classes as well, like exercise classes, if they had some sort of either discounted rate or free gym classes. And it doesn't have to be intense, because intense doesn't always work for me, but like even yoga or Pilates or something would be great. And then if you were really in the thick of like narcolepsy symptoms, actual like healthcare assistance. I know this might seem like far out, but like there's sometimes where I'm like, I would really just need someone to do my shopping for me and clean my bathroom.
Yeah.
And if they did that, my energy could be kept to getting better, instead of sinking even further because I'm trying to keep up. And then the last thing, is medical schools. They need to provide a more comprehensive education on sleep, because I know that medical schools here only maybe do one lecture over the course of 7 years on sleep. It's usually focused on sleep apnea and not the neurological side of like narcolepsy. So, if GPs and doctors aren't taught the signposts in the first place, how are we ever going to be diagnosed? The public and advocates, people like ourselves, can raise awareness. But if the medical resource at the front was right in the first place, we wouldn't have to do all this, I mean, we still like doing it to raise awareness and help, but it's just, I do feel like there's a lot of onus put on the GP, and I know there's a lot, like from knowing someone, I know there's a lot to cover, but even the medical schools offering it as an additional course or something, just if they want to know for their own education, because I do feel bad. I can't, I'm too empathetic at times, but I can see why people don't get diagnosed when they don't even know the basic symptoms of something like narcolepsy.
Yeah, so true.
Well said.
I'm like, speech over. I had to read that part out, because I was like, I know I'll forget.
No, that was so well said. Oh my gosh, you just touched on all the spot.
I think it's so true as well with family and friends, with how they can help. And you're so right. Sometimes just keeping it simple and helping with those daily tasks is the best thing to do. And I'm trying to say this as loudly as possible so my partner can hear.
Get the dinner.
But it's actually so true. And I think particularly when I talk to my parents, and they are naturally fixers, and so they want to just make everything better instantly, which is so lovely. But sometimes it's like, actually, I'm not looking for a solution to my problem. I just want you to hear where I'm at and like how hard my day was. And like you say, just having a cuddle can just sometimes make it all better. And it doesn't take the narcolepsy away, but it just shows that someone is sitting there with you in those emotions, and that helps to validate it.
Oh, totally. Like you don't have to have like a vast emotional intelligence to just be like, oh, that really sucks. Do you want an ice cream? Like, you're like, literally, it's the simplest of things.
So true. And with our sugar cravings, yes, we always want an ice cream, please.
Can we have a nap after, because it'll probably knock us out. I have a funny story actually about an ice cream, but I'll keep it for
please share.
So I was in Rome with a now ex-boyfriend, and I was on one of those city sightseeing tours. We were up at the top of the bus, but just before that we had gelato, which I was like, this is delicious. Loved it. Got on the bus, was like, okay, so ready for this tour. And then I woke up. I didn't even realize I'd fallen asleep. And he goes to me, the Colosseum's just round the corner. And I was like, how do you know that? And he's like, Christine, this is not the first time we've been round. You've been asleep the whole time. Like, so you've been through the whole 20 stops or whatever, and I was only seeing it for the first time.
Oh my God.
And then different times too. Like my friend, one time we did the same thing in Budapest, and she was like, oh, do you know, like, oh, so that's down that street. And I was like, why do you know so much? She's like, Kristen, you're asleep during the amazing what you would learn when you're awake.
Christine, you need to learn your lesson. We need to do walking tours, okay? Because we can't fall asleep on walking tours.
After that, I was like, I'm done. Like, I love the idea of it. I think I love the idea of it. And then I'm just like Grandpa Simpson and the whole way around it. It's like, no, it's not going to work.
I would love to hear more about your blog as well, and how you started it, what you write about, and how you feel that helps your mental health.
And what it's called as well, so people can look it up.
So it's called The Girl Who Ran Away in Her Sleep.com. Quite lengthy. If I look back now, I'm like, I should have stuck to something shorter or at least SEO friendly. But the idea was that, the Coldplay song Paradise, if you go through the lyrics of that song, it's basically about if you watch even the video as well, the little elephant is lost. And he's on the tube and stuff, and he's in the corporate world, and he's like totally away from his tribe and everything that he likes. And then you see at the end, he like reunites with all the other elephants. So it's kind of like, I ran away in my sleep because I was running in my sleep in my nightmares. But I also started that blog when I left my corporate job. And I just was trying to find, like, where are my elephants? This is not really like where I'm meant to be. And I think I was just trying to make sense of it all. And it was cathartic to chat about it. I think it was really helped me to process it, because each blog post I was able to put to bed the memories, I think. So I tried to I started from the start, and that was like when I was little and really couldn't get up for school, and I tried to make it kind of funny as well, because it was just kind of like, some of it is funny. So yeah, I just tried to find the fun, the humor in it, without like other people thinking, oh my God, you're laughing at our condition. But it's just the way I coped with it. And so I wrote about all the different phases, about from school to relationships. That's another minefield, to doing exams and the fear of failure. And then there's like the fear of failure, and then actually failing is like for a perfectionist at the time, it was like my worst nightmare. And then navigating that was, okay, it's here. Actually, the corporate world wasn't serving me anyway. Like I lost my job because of narcolepsy, because I had failed my exams. My contract had a stipulation in it where you had to do them in a certain time frame. So like that was so traumatic, and probably one of the worst times in my life. And I just wrote about it, and I think by writing about it, I'm like, okay, like that actually happened, and that was that was traumatic, because I think at the time I just needed to keep going. I needed to go through the motions, like, okay, I've lost my job, no problem, I'm going to work here for a while, and I'm going to look for a job, I'll get another job. But like I didn't process any of that. So yeah, I think it's just like, it's a lighthearted in parts, and then other parts you're like, oh my God, it's so dark. But I didn't want to hide away from the darkness either, because that is people's experience with narcolepsy, and you can't like, you can make, it's like we can laugh at it, but you can't. But no, it's just like trying to make light of it, but at the same time, like you do need to kind of tell the parts that are dark, because it might help someone else that I've been through this dark thing and I'm still here. Like I've actually got over that. So yeah.
That's amazing. And I can totally relate with the job situation, because I had a job that I was in for 3 months, and I'm not sure whether I quit it in the end, and I'm not sure whether I left because of the narcolepsy, or it just, yeah, it all seemed a bit much for me, to be honest. The pace is way too quick. I just couldn't keep up with it. And it's very hard when you leave a job for narcolepsy related reasons, because I don't know about you, but I definitely felt like I was a bit of a failure.
Like a cry, like
yeah. And it is a traumatic thing to go through that, and it's a big emotion, or lots of emotions to have to process. I mean, I'm personally glad I had that experience, because I feel like I learned a lot, and it's led me to where I am now, and listening much more to my body. But can you tell us more about kind of your experience of it?
I think, as you said there about just feeling like a failure, that was a really tough thing, because I think when you're initially, or even just before you're diagnosed, you don't understand that this physical condition is not your fault, and you internalize all that, like, oh, like this is clearly my fault that I'm not passing these exams, I'm not doing enough, I'm not enough, and like the self-worth like issues that caused were quite deeply ingrained even when I was diagnosed. I mean, I was the kind of child that was always studying, like high achieving, and then for all that work, it felt to be ripped away from me. And I had a real identity crisis. I didn't really know what to do next, because I didn't know who to be when I wasn't passing exams. And I know like that sounds a bit sad, but I think a lot of people that are like that haven't had to address that as their identity unless it's been ripped away, which is probably like, you probably felt like this as well, where you just didn't know where to turn. Like you just kind of were like, where does my career, you had this like stairs of career, and then it's like, there's no path anymore. Like, I don't know where to go. So I think mental health wise, definitely. One of my managers that I used to work with said to me, Christine, please don't let this define you. And I didn't even understand what that meant at the time. But she basically said, like, she meant like, you've got a good personality and like you're really good to be around. I'd really hate if this moment in your life basically turned you to the dark side or something. And it's really true. I honestly can understand why people would be like really impacted, but I think I was just like, I'm still here. Like I can still try to do something else. But yeah, therapy. Had to go to therapy because I just didn't know. And then out of therapy, that blog was born as well, because a lot of the work we did was around identity and what other things I like doing and what other things, like what makes me feel good and worth issues. So it's just something you never really explore until you have to.
Yeah.
So you're probably the same. Were you in speech and language therapy before that, or is that a new career?
Yeah, so it was a different field of speech and language therapy. So it was in a general hospital, and it was always something I really wanted to do. And then I got into that setting, and it was just a nightmare. Like, it was so fast paced. It was around the time I'd started my medication, so my anxiety symptoms were very high. In fact, the anxiety was so bad and the adrenaline was so strong that I wasn't even napping at lunchtimes, which I need to do every day, because it was just like I was so zingy on it, but in a bad way. So yeah, I massively burnt out. And it was one of those environments where because it was super fast paced and because my anxiety was so high at the time, I just couldn't retain any information. So I think, like we were saying earlier, we always have to write things down all the time. And that I was just going into overdrive in that role. Yeah, it really wasn't working for me. But I'm so glad I had that experience, because funnily enough, my manager at the time also said something to me, which was, no job is worth your mental health. And I just needed to hear that, because I was like, you know what, it's so true. And I don't need to be in this job. I need a job. I need to get paid, but it doesn't have to be this role.
That's so true. It really is. And your career is longer than you think. You know, like people will be like, you have to do XYZ right now. And it's like, you actually have a lot more time than I think when you come out of uni, you realize, you know.
Definitely.
It's a marathon, not a race. Like, you don't have to go like right away.
For sure. And I think if you speak to lots of different people, narcolepsy or no narcolepsy, so many people have had a similar life experience where they've gone into a job they thought was great and then quickly realized it wasn't for them. And whether they've quit or been fired, actually it leads you in a different direction that's probably better for you in the long run.
This is it. I think as well, I probably would eventually have burnt out at some point. You know, even if I had survived the exams and stayed on to be manager or whatever, the pressure, the more work that's added on, the worse my symptoms got. So it just seemed like that career was never going to serve me, because no matter what company you went to, it was like the same workload, just a different name for it or a different kind of boss. So as you say, like, I'm just like, I think that I am where I'm meant to be now. It was difficult, but I've definitely just kind of addressed these kind of issues now rather than later. So
Better late than never.
here, that's it.
Carolee, is there any other questions, or is now a good time for my red button question?
I want to ask Christine, were you ever diagnosed with any mental conditions?
My therapist diagnosed me with generalized anxiety disorder, but in terms of I never know, did I have anxiety before I had narcolepsy? Or do I have anxiety because of narcolepsy? It's like the chicken and the egg. A lot of my anxiety, which is like social anxiety, is surrounded by the fact, like, am I going to have enough energy to complete this food shop? No, I'm not. So I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to leave the house. Things like that. I feel like everything I feel in terms of mental health is secondary to having narcolepsy, and the out of control feeling. And then there's also a thing like I don't have a formal diagnosis, but I really suspect I have ADHD. But again, as you were talking earlier, Curly, about you need to nap, then you need to do XYZ, and then you need to sleep. I feel like it's just because I have limited time. I always feel like I'm behind, and then my thoughts are racing and I can't relax. I don't know, again, if it's correlated, that I've kind of have this ADHD style of thinking now, because I'm trying to get as much done in the time given. And then you don't know, obviously people with inattentive ADHD have trouble concentrating, but so do people with narcolepsy. So it's like, and then whenever you think about it being genetic, and it's normalized a lot in families, and I'm like, maybe we just all have ADHD. But, it's just, yeah.
Definitely worth exploring.
Definitely.
So also, is there anything from your therapy that really helped you and you think you'd like to share? Do you think it might help other people?
Routine, I think, is something that as children we're put into a routine. We follow our family's little routine, but as adults, sometimes when you have your own time and space and you're like, I'm going to do whatever I want, and then you're like, no, actually, a routine in terms of, see, simple things like, when are you going to do your food shop and when are you going to clean your house, down to the specifics, would, I think, really helped me. And also Pomodoro method. It's 25 minutes working and then 5-minute break. 25 minutes working, 5-minute break. And that little reward of either being able to like read it, I don't know, it could be anything like going to the bathroom, or I would finish my makeup or something in the morning when I'm at work, if I'm working from home. That concentration is a lot easier for me to complete tasks in. If it can be transcend for everything, for housework. If you're like, oh, I'll only spend like 10 minutes, 20 minutes doing something versus, oh, it's going to take me 3 hours. It's just a lot more manageable. Break everything down. Break every single task down from lift bag to go to fridge and lift lunch out. I just think other people might think it's silly, but honestly, whatever works.
25 minutes, then have a break.
Guys, yeah, so Pomodoro, I'll write it in the chat. If you look that up, there's ADHD people do it really well. There's like a few YouTube people that go through it. So yeah, it's
First
all
yawn of the podcast today. Congrats.
that's actually so good.
We've done well.
We actually have.
So do you set an alarm for that method, or do you just kind of look at the clock?
So I'm a Harry Potter nerd. If you go on YouTube and type in Harry Potter Pomodoro, it'll play like the Gryffindor common room for 25 minutes, and it's just pages. I know I sound really weird. This is where my cred goes through the floor. But like, you can do that for everything, like Lord of the Rings, like whatever you're into, but it's so soothing. And then the alarm goes off on the YouTube video. It doesn't have to be Harry Potter. There's loads. There's like body doubling where other people are like typing and then they take a break and then type it into YouTube. Honestly, it's a really weird world, but it's really soothing.
Okay, I'm excited to look into that.
Yeah,
if you like ASMR, you'll like it, I think.
Sounds good. Okay, so is now a good time for the red button question?
yes, go ahead.
Yay. Okay. If you could press a red button and completely get rid of narcolepsy from your life and never have experienced it, would you do it, and why?
That's really difficult. I probably would like to get rid of it, but then I have had a lot of growth in terms of having had to deal with something like narcolepsy. I have kind of grown as a person. I don't know. I probably would, yeah. Would you?
Oh, I don't know. No one's ever asked me my own question back to me, I don't think.
I don't know what the answer is.
I think I would. It depends what day you ask me on and what time of day you ask me. But maybe majority no, just because this is my life and I feel like it's helped me to be an empathetic person, which has helped me in my career, and it's taught me a lot of life lessons, as hard and as painful as it is sometimes.
I think I'm grateful that I went through those lessons, because I was in a way forced to face some of my like basically mental struggles that I was just sweeping under the carpet. On some difficult days, I definitely would like to say, like, I've learned enough lessons. I would like to get rid of it now, please.
Yeah.
But I think, there is growth and adversity, and I'm on a completely different path now. But maybe this is the most authentic path to me, and I needed something like that to really make me kind of do it, because otherwise I was going to burn myself out regardless, because I just wanted to be ambition wise. I was always going to push myself really, really hard. So I feel like some sort of brakes needed to be put on to be like, no. I mean, who knows? Like, if I didn't have narcolepsy, I might have pushed myself so hard that I would have developed some other health condition. So it's kind of hard to know, isn't it? Bit of a vague answer, but sometimes yes, sometimes no.
It's all right, we'll accept it. And can you tell us a bit about your podcast as well before you go?
So my podcast is called Mind Your Sleep, and myself and another girl called Aoife Hart co-host it as well. And basically the message behind it is mind. It focuses on the mental health aspect. You're being a unique approach to narcolepsy, because sometimes, not everybody has, just because we all have narcolepsy, not necessarily does everyone feel the same way about it or approach it in the same way. And health being like the aspects of health that affect sleep, like nutrition, mental health, and exercise and things like that. So basically all the things we've tried in terms of trying to help manage our symptoms, and just kind of, we're hoping to interview like psychiatrists and nutritionists and things, and just what they know about sleep and how like nutrition and mental health and exercise as well impacts your sleep. So it's kind of like we can't get rid of narcolepsy, but sometimes we can alleviate our symptoms a wee bit. So anything that helps, So and then we go through everyday things like how's our week, Is there anything we're reading? Anything that's, because we like to kind of be like, we're normal people too. You know, that kind of way. Like we're not, you know, we have interests outside of just having narcolepsy.
Yeah.
Not that interest, but an identity. I mean, sorry.
Narcolepsy is my number one interest.
I love it. Yeah,
Sounds good.
Thanks very much for having me as a guest.
No, thanks for coming on. It was really good to hear your story and all your suggestions for all the doctors out there that's listening and all the people in politics that are listening. There's so much information in this podcast for you to implement and make some changes that will help lots of people. You've heard it here first. So
It's also a nice cathartic episode. Always good to share how we're feeling and get it out there.
Definitely. I always struggle with the end of these things.
Jingle, jingle, jingle.
I'm like, okay, bye everyone.
My favorite phrase I like to say is happy napping, everyone.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Views and opinions in these stories may not work for everyone. If anything you have heard is relatable, please see a doctor for advice. Thank you for spending time here with us at Narcolepsy Navigators. I hope you learned something new. Please share the podcast with others. You can find us on all platforms. See you next time when we delve into another person's story.